gentlemen, this event is so dear to me because it was my first time going on stage during my first freshman year, and now I'm going to graduate, and I'm honored to be presenting over again. If you really want to bring success into your life, you should cultivate yourself just as you would cultivate a garden for the best yield. Well, a successful person should have a lot of traits like
drive,
self-reliance,
willpower,
patience,
integrity,
passion,
connection,
optimism,
self-confidence.
communication.
This part of the conference of the event is about who must not be named. Our National School of Business and Management graduates and then a professor, an idol, an inspiration, an author, and not to forget the founder of the IBA approach.
Yes, the IPR approach, new training of well-being engineers. Well, I guess you all know what we're talking about. Well, we present Mr. Saif Allouani, who will respond immediately to our call to be part of this event.
And now, I have the pleasure to ask Mr. Allouani to be a part of this stage and give us a useful, wide ideas and advice.
Thank you for having me. I guess that I'm really intimidated by the performance of former speakers. So I don't know if I really climax of this day of just the web talk. I'm here to talk to you about one of my greatest experiences as a teacher and lecturer in our school. And the title of my intervention is He Who Must Not Be Named in Our Universities. And you easily guess that I'm talking about Lord Voldemort. For Harry Potter fans, it's quite a celebrity. I want to begin with a kind of tale of the teacher choir. When I was preparing when I was thinking about what to prepare to speak about today, I decided to get some help from my students. So I asked them, I'm about to give a speech about something you may be interested with during the English day. And can you give me some help, suggesting an idea about a topic that could be relevant for you as a student? And guess what? I get almost no answer. People kept gazing at me, waiting for the moment to be done, to be over, until I get some mumbling sound just trying to save me. I was about to get deceived about their attitude, their lack of cooperation. Then I get hit by one of those aha moments of my life. By their nonverbal attitude, they were trying to tell me what's really going on. It was silent, a little bit frustrating, yet very eloquent. People were just under the spell of who must be not named in our university. They were under the spell of Lord bored to death. Yes, I know. We teachers, I used to use some euphemism to talk about, like lack of motivation, lack of engagement, students lack a little bit of enthusiasm, they're not very committed to the work, they're not involved, they try to avoid work, but we try to not address the core problem, which is boredom. Students are bored to death. And this is a plague that is almost everywhere
in our universities, in our school, and all educational system. So, what about boredom? Are you bored? Right now, I can say that it's not the case, But during classes, are you really bored? Yes. So, would you have some tips and advice about how to overcome boredom? You're not alone. You're not alone. If you're bored, it means that you're just part of the majority of students in the world. Worldwide surveys are confirming the fact that students are bored. It's part of who they are. Our system has become just something when teachers are, the very definition of teacher is being boring. The machinery of boredom. And the very definition of a student is a boredom creature. I'm bored, therefore I am. So there is a devil pact. There is a kind of deal between producing boredom and consuming it. And this plague is just infesting our university and sucking out all the joy of learning. And by the way, as an outcome, all the benefits of being a student, of getting a good education. So, why we don't address boredom? Why we don't care about, should we care about boredom? What is boredom? Is it bad or good? What is the very nature of boredom? And how can we do to deal with it, to cope with boredom, and to transform this boredom on joy of learning? This is what we're going to grapple with as questions today. So, language is always a good place to start. To bore something. Do you know what it means? To bore something. Boring a hole, the act of boring, is the act of enlarging a hole in a barrel. That tedious, repetitive, monotonous process when you feel that you should do the same thing without going nowhere, and should be done and done and done and on and on and on until you get some results slowly. That's the act of boring. There is a good place to start to consider boredom as a phenomenon. So whether it's done the modern way or the traditional way, it's always a boring process. And the other place to start is, that's boring, philosophy. You know, the philosophers are always those people concerned with childish questions, like why we get bored. And one of the great philosophers, Oscar Wilde, told us that the only horrible thing in the world is ennui. But telling it in French, said he, doesn't change the matter. It's always painful. So, being bored is a kind of phobia. And in modern world, we would say that Oscar Wilde has what modern psychologists call thalassophobia, which means the fear of boredom, the fear of being bored. So we fear boredom, and we flee it. And this is why perhaps the modern sociologist, German sociologist Martin Doleman, talks about the existential boredom, as if boredom was just a part of the human nature. Being bored is just part of who we are. We are bored just because, and this is the pessimistic outlook of philosophers like Arthur Schopenhauer, who said that being bored is just because the life doesn't possess in itself enough meaning and enough source of excitement to fill us. So we get bored. This is a quite pessimistic outlook. But we can change this outlook by talking about other philosophers who consider boredom like a source of pride. Because boredom is just telling us that what we need is bigger than the world. What we are meant to is just bigger than the world. boredom is the most sublime of all human emotions because it expresses the fact that human spirit, in a certain sense, is greater than the entire universe. So even life itself cannot suffice us. So boredom is just an expression of our greatness. That's quite a great place to start. But I know you're just telling yourself, I'm about to get bored. What about my boredom, me as a student? What can I do about it? Okay, some engineers in MIT school had conducted a study when they put some thermal sensors. We don't have to worry about these technical terms, but the principle is to monitor the neuronal activities of students during a week. So we can monitor and follow up how their brains are reacting for different situations. And they got something like this. Some spikes, some peaks and valleys, and some flat lines. So this is my question. Which segment shows brain activity during class time? In your opinion? A, B, C, D? D? Are you sure? You're right. It means that your brain is more awake when you're sleeping than when you're in classroom. Which explains why you get bored. You're bored to death. You're just disconnected from the reality, disconnected from the here and now, and just waiting for the time to get over in order to get another place. So just your brain is suffering. And what are the ingredients of boredom? The components of boredom? You have just, to summon up the demon, to summon up the devil, bored, Lord bored to death, you have just to spell 3 words. The first is confinement. The second is the lack of choice, lack of control. And the third is just someone who is just telling you boring stories. So confinement, lack of choice, and some ridiculous stuff you force yourself to listen to, and you're going to gather all the ingredients of boredom, which those conditions are often gathered in classrooms. This is why people and students are fidgeting all the time, asking to go to the toilet, asking to do something else. It's just part of what they are as humans. So between us, teacher, we don't have to blame them. They're just trying to cope with their inner boredom. That's feeling of being forced to undergo a process of boredom. So another definition, which is more scientific, of boredom comes like this. It's an affective, unpleasant, aversive feelings merged with cognitive altered perception of time. You feel that time is going nowhere. Time is becoming slow and slow and slow. And physiological reduced arousal. You're just ramping down your energy. Expressive facial, vocal postural expression, boredom. You can just guess if someone is bored throughout his nonverbal attitude and facial expression. His body is telling you that I'm bored. And motivation to change the activity or to leave the situation, or to find an alibi, or to find an excuse like going to the toilet. And what is exciting about boredom is that studying boredom is not boring at all. So boredom can be measured. And there is something called, has developed by some psychologists, boredom proneness scale, when you can measure your proneness to get bored. And I did some researches using my circle of friends in Facebook, that makes sense. Now you guess, you figure out why I asked you to rate yourself. And what I get for a sample, Mr. Ben Ammar is here, it's a biased, very biased, not representative at all survey. Huh? So don't take it seriously. It's just for fun. For a sample of 75 people, I got an average of 122. And the range of the scale is from 28 to 197. Means that we are almost in the red zone. People, at least people who had answered my survey, are bored to death. What should we do about this? So when we talk about boredom can be measured either quantitatively and qualitatively. There are types of boredom. And we can measure those, differentiate between those types of boredom throughout two axes. It depends whether it's a bad or a good emotion, and the amount of energy put on this boredom situation. So there is the apathetic boredom, when you feel that it's a bad emotion and you feel that your energy is down. You feel bad and you don't want to act. You're apathetic. In the other side, there is the indifferent wisdom, the indifferent boredom. You feel a good emotion and your body is just relaxed. You just feel. The other types, calibrating, searching, and reactant boredom. Which is the most pernicious, the most dangerous, in your opinion? The most pernicious, the most dangerous type of boredom is the apathetic one. If you feel like apathetic in situation, more often get professional help. Perhaps you are heading to depression. You are disconnected from reality. Your brain is just suffering. So if you're indifferent, go on, keep doing, just relax. So if you have the other reactant, searching, or calibrating, try to do something to overcome your boredom. Boredom, in this case, is just a message you should consider from your own brain. So what's the message behind? You know what? If boredom is not a mood, it's not a state, it's not a thing you should feel guilty about. Boredom is just an emotion. And like every emotion, it has a function. It's relevant on itself. So an emotion is just a way our bodies, our psyche, are used to try to make us do another thing, do interesting things in order to maintain our survival. So boredom, if you put it in Robert Plutchik's wheel of emotion, we can consider it as a milder form of disgust. We know disgust what it is. Disgust is just the emotion we feel when we get in contact with a certain infectious physical situation, something rancid, something which is bad for our health. We get this disgust in order to get away and keep our survival. And boredom is the same logic. If disgust is protecting us from physical infectious situation, boredom is a kind of protection against infectious social situations. Boredom is telling you that the brain is suffering. He wants excitement. And boredom in itself can be, in this case, very stressful because the brain doesn't want to be bored. So when you get bored, your very sense of survival is threatened. So we feel the threat, and you feel the threat, and the lower brain gets in charge, and it's a difficult situation. So sometimes boredom can lead to death or lead to some dangerous behaviors like gambling, like overeating, like fidgeting all the time, like doing some dangerous acts, just to look for adrenaline, to look for distraction and excitement. So boredom is just an emotion, and next time you feel bored, you should just accept this emotion and try to figure out what is the hidden message behind. So, if boredom, in his book, Peter Clohe, in his book Boredom, A Lively History, he's telling, the author is telling us that nothing speeds brain atrophy more than being immobilized in the same environment. The monotony undermines our dopamine and attentional system, crucial to maintaining brain plasticity. Literally, when you're bored, you're killing yourself. You're reducing your brain plasticity. And literally, when schools are designed to bore students, they are guilty. And I plead guilty for being part of this system, who's just, I don't want to buy the hand that feeds me, but this is a fact. And the first step toward the solution is just recognition of our part of responsibility of within this collective crime. We are killing our students by designing schools in order to make them shut up. And part of my job description as a teacher is making students putting up with monotony, shutting their mouth all the time, making them listening to me and my stories all the time. Which means so boredom can kill you, and boredom is just a message telling you that telling us all that we should change the strategy. It's time to kill the Lord bored to death and to enter Lord fun to learn. This is one of my favorite characters in Harry Potter. In another life, I would like to be this man. So the idea is transforming this negative energy of boredom to positive energy in order to flourish. The positive energy of flow. What do we mean by flow? Look at your brain. This is a student's brain when he's looking just at a professor telling him something. Just a small part of his brain is active, and all the rest of the brain is doing nothing, daydreaming, literally, and trying to find something, imagining, drawing, doing other things, than looking at this professor telling his dull story. This is a student's listening, just listening to an auditory conference. And this is a third case, a student's in a situation of flow. What do we mean by flow? Flow is something that we owe to this lovely man. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Well, you cannot spell it correctly, but this is the way he told people to call him. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. And he's behind this theory of flow. And flow means literally the optimal experience. The flow is this situation when you feel that all your energy is available for here and now, for the present moment. When you feel aligned, what sportsmen call the zone, being in the zone. That's the flow experience. Being in the zone, it's like Michael Jordan making 3-point success consequently. He was in a flow state. He was in the zone. And flow is something you're going to get when you work on something, when there is challenge, and there is a sense of skills, a sense of mastery. When you combine mastery with skills, you get the flow state. So technically, steps to get to the flow is increase skills or increase challenge. To whom who feel concerned about this, you should just increase the skills. If you are bored, it's just that the task is not challenging you enough. If you are bored, it's just that you are not good enough sometimes. So these are the conditions of flow. First, challenging activity that requires skills, clear goals and feedback, immersion of action and awareness. When you feel that time and place and all other considerations are just disappearing, all your concerns are fading away, and you are just focused on the right moment, the present moment, concentration on the task at hand, the loss of ego and self-consciousness, paradox of control, the transformation of time. You don't feel time flowing. And not a telic experience. Telic comes from telos. Telos is meaning. When something means something for you. That's what we call autotelic experience. Technically, how can we pragmatically transform this idea into real-life actions and real-life practice? This is something that I can draw from my small experience. The first thing is gamification. Making things done throughout games. Human brains love gaming, love scoring in games. That's the first action. The second, in vivo experiences. Like this experience. Now we are preparing, we are living, you are engaged in your life. I talk about students behind the committee, behind the scenes, who are working on preparing all the organizational and managerial stuff of this day. That's great. This is the in vivo experience. It's not boring at all because you're doing something. You get involved. You're engaging with novelty, excitement, everything that makes you far away from being bored. And this is a kind of learning philosophy I'm advocating. That's my battle cry. It's switching from pedagogy to logogogy. Logogogy, it's like logotherapy, therapy of meaning. It's doing learning and training and teaching throughout meaning. We should be very rational and recognize that there is no fun in learning accounting or finance or mathematics. There is no fun. You should just endure it. That's part of your job. So where you can draw the fun, draw the energy in order to resist this boredom that can overflow you when you're working on such I would like such a devilish subject like mathematics, accounting, finance, or whatever. I would like to end my speech by talking about a tale of three masons. A man came across three masons who were chipping chunks of rocks from a big block of granite. He asked the first man, "What are you doing?" He looks very angry, very anxious, not happy at all. And he told me, "I'm trying to chip chunks of this stupid rock, and I can't resist to go home." Okay. He left him and asked the second mason, "What are you doing?" He told him he was a little bit quiet. He worked diligently on